All right. This is Amanda from the 36 LD Democrats interviewing Rory O'Sullivan, who is running for Seattle City Attorney. Rory, over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all your work putting this together. My name is Rory O'Sullivan. I'm running for Seattle City Attorney. In my legal career, I've tried to figure out where I have the most opportunity to serve. During the foreclosure crisis in 2009, I helped the Northwest Justice Project stand up the foreclosure prevention unit. I was managing attorney of the Housing Justice Project and working on tenant protections during the teens. And then during the COVID crisis, I started my own law firm to help folks with unemployment insurance benefits. But in my spare time as an activist, I've really tried to focus my work on systems change. I was one of the authors of the Democracy Voucher Program. I was chair of Fairville, Washington in 2022 when we passed ranked choice voting for this city. And what I've found through the work that I've done is that when voters and activists in Seattle come together, we can do really big things. And it's been so frustrating to see our elected leaders not doing the big things that voters say that they want over and over again. So instead of doing those big things, we're pushing poor people around the city. We're recriminalizing drug possession, creating these soap and soda laws that aren't actually enforced, and not working on the transformative kind of change that we need. So I'm running for Seattle City Attorney because we need some really big changes. We need to reimagine public safety. We need to stand up to the Seattle Police Officers Guild. We need to negotiate a real contract with accountability measures, common sense accountability measures. We need to have prisons that treat people like people. And we need to reinstitute community court and find a way to help folks disengage from the criminal legal system. And that's what I hope to do as city attorney.
Great. Thank you very much. Our first question will be asked by Anita.
We would like to know more of your why and understand what experiences you bring to this role and how this informs how you will govern.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Anita. So I have a 6-year-old son, and he complains a lot. So my wife and I always try to help him understand that it's not okay to just complain. Like you have to be a problem solver. You have to figure out what you can do to make happen what you want to see happen. But in 2022, 2023, 2024, I found myself complaining a lot about what was happening at the city attorney's office. I was complaining about community court being closed. I was complaining when our city attorney filed a blanket affidavit against Judge Pooja Vidadi. I was complaining when there was an enormous backlog of DUI cases building up. And in order to be a good role model, I had to actually take my own advice and step up and start doing something. So, in my background, as I mentioned earlier, so I helped create the Democracy Voucher Program, and I've seen some of the really big things that we can do. I bring a lot of experience. I've argued cases in front of this Washington State Supreme Court, in front of the Ninth Circuit. I've had an opportunity to manage a large number of people and different types of programs. I've started my own law firm, and I think all of these are experiences that are going to be important in order to be an effective city attorney. So that's when I stepped forward because I wanted to stop complaining and start doing something.
Great. Thank you. Our next question will be asked by Toby.
We have 3 progressive candidates in this race. What are some differences between you and your opponents, and what makes you the best candidate to take on Davison?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I want to say I am so thrilled that we have 3 good candidates in this race. The reason that I worked on democracy vouchers, the reason that I worked on ranked choice voting is because it's so important for voters in Seattle to have good options. So I am really excited to see some great folks step forward. In terms of the differences, so as I mentioned before, I've led programs. I was the managing attorney of the Housing Justice Project. I was the director of student legal services. In those positions, I oversaw large groups of people. I managed programs. And I've created my own law firm. So that means hiring and marketing and website and figuring out every aspect, how to pay all the different taxes that you have to pay when you have employees. So I've built really big important things. I've also created programs for the city. I helped create the democracy voucher program and then defend it when it was challenged in court. I worked with our city council members to help establish tenant protections. And then when those tenant protections were challenged, I was asked to write an amicus brief in the Washington State Supreme Court, and we won to protect those programs. I'm also in the best position to defeat Ann Davison. So I've built up the strongest campaign in terms of fundraising. If you look at the PDC right now, you'll see that our fundraising numbers are pretty strong compared to the other candidates. I'm the only one in the race who already has an endorsement of a legislative district. I'm the only one in the race who already has the endorsement of a union. I'm the only one in the race who already has the endorsement of a statewide elected official. And I think I've earned that support because folks have confidence that I will be able to defeat Ann Davison, and that's what we need at this point.
Great, thanks. Our next question will be asked by Alex.
What do you think the city attorney's office is doing well? What do you think needs to be improved? And what key reforms or changes would you bring to the office to improve its mission?
Yeah, so one thing I'll say about Ann Davidson's time as city attorney is that she has absolutely used the office to influence policy. So she's used the office to pass a recriminalization of drug possession. She has used the office to pass laws like soap and soda, and more recently we've seen a crackdown on our immigrant-owned businesses in the hookah lounges. So she has, used I don't agree with most of those policies, but she has shown that the office can absolutely be used to move policy. In terms of what I would do differently, it's just about everything. I think that office needs to focus on our therapeutic court system and really build our therapeutic court system. The way our therapeutic court system is supposed to work is you bring the prosecutor, the public defender, and service providers together to figure out what it is that an individual needs in order to disengage from the criminal legal system. And that's what we need more of, not just pushing folks through the traditional criminal legal system. We also really need to support our Office of Labor Standards. That would be a high priority for me. We've seen in the last 3 years of the Holmes administration, they filed 11 cases that were brought before the hearing examiner on labor standards. In the entire time that Ann Davidson has been in office, there's only been 2 labor standards cases filed. And I've heard from folks who work at the office that the Office of Labor Standards actually doesn't even want to send cases to the city attorney's office because they're worried they aren't going to be litigated properly. So the Office of Labor Standards is trying to resolve those cases themselves. But as city attorney, I would really focus on supporting our Office of Labor Standards, and we need somebody who's going to stand up to SPOG, to stand up to the Seattle Police Officers Guild and help the city negotiate the kind of contract that our voters want.
Great, thank you. And our last question is going to be read by Tyler.
Thank you, Rory. The current federal administration has shown hostility towards cities and counties with progressive values like ours. How do you anticipate navigating and leading when facing urgent, complex, dynamic challenges to civil rights laws, funding, and all?
Yeah, so what I'll note is that we have a really good model to work off of. So our state attorney general, Nick Brown, even before he came into office, he was reviewing Project 2025. He was reviewing Trump's campaign promises, and he was developing lawsuits before he came into office in order to counter what we knew was coming down the pike, right? So on day one, when Trump tried to invalidate birthright citizenship, Nick Brown was there to file a lawsuit to challenge that. And I have friends who work at the Attorney General's office, and I know they've been working 14, 16, 18-hour days for months now, because that's what it takes. Like, we know that we can beat Trump in court because we have done it over and over again. Bob Ferguson did it over and over again. Nick Brown has filed 13 lawsuits against the Trump administration. My understanding is that so far, Ann Davidson has joined one lawsuit that was filed by some municipalities in California, but that's not what we need. We need somebody who's actually going to protect the funding that has been appropriated and contracted for our Seattle programs. Just as an example, we know that the King County Regional Homelessness Authority has a $60 million grant that's been held up by the federal government. Those are resources that should be going to folks in Seattle. We need a city attorney's office that is prepared and ready to fight for those resources that have been contracted. This isn't ambiguous. These are funds that we know are supposed to support our friends and neighbors. And unfortunately, our leadership has not been taking the steps that they need in order to protect those funds. There's also a number of affirmative lawsuits that we could bring, but I can talk about those later.
Great, thank you. That concludes our 4 prepared questions. I'll go ahead and open it up to the folks here on Zoom for any follow-up questions, starting with Alex.
I'm going to pick up right where you left off, Rory. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the affirmative lawsuits that you would bring as city attorney?
Yeah, thank you so much. So one of the things that we know is that the federal government has decided to basically end any protections for our trans community. So if somebody has filed a claim with the EEOC and is alleging discrimination based on their status as a trans individual, the EEOC isn't taking those cases anymore. But the city of Seattle can actually file a lawsuit as a plaintiff in a Title VII civil rights action. So we could be stepping in where we know the federal government is stepping back. So we know we need to protect our friends and neighbors who are being targeted by the federal government. I mean, that's just one example, but there are, we also need to be filing litigation. We need to be exploring where corporations have impacted the city and what affirmative litigation we can file in that realm as well.
Great, thank you. Do we have another question? I saw a hand earlier, but it went away.
I was going to ask the same one as Alex.
Gotcha. All right, well, we have another one from Alex. So
Yeah,
go
I mean,
ahead.
I can just keep asking you questions all night long if you want. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the more innovative approaches you would take as city attorney? So when Nick Brown ran for Attorney General, he talked a lot about, standing new divisions within the Attorney General's office. Do you plan on taking a similar approach as city attorney?
Yeah, so there's some really good work that we can be doing in terms of supporting the Office of Labor Standards. So under Pete Holmes, we actually had an attorney who spent half his time at the Office of Labor Standards and half his time in the city attorney's office, so that when they were in the investigation stage of the process and it looked like it might go towards litigation, there was an attorney from the city attorney's office monitoring those investigations, ready to prepare it for litigation. So we need a team of folks in the city attorney's office who is supporting our Office of Labor Standards. We also need folks dedicated to filing timely cases in the context of domestic violence. So in addition to the DOI case backlog, DV cases have also been that there's been a lag in filing, and those are the cases where we have folks who it's the most lethal time is when a survivor of DV leaves the relationship. We need to be able to step in immediately and get a no contact order.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Toby.
Do you have an opinion on what you could do as city attorney with respect to housing, civil rights, displacement, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's one of the things that we can be doing is supporting our Office of Civil Rights. So again, we know that these programs are being rolled back by the Trump administration. So the federal protections that are there for in the context of housing discrimination are virtually non-existent at that point. So unfortunately, we already do have an Office of Civil Rights, and that has the capacity to engage in civil rights in the context of housing. So I think we're going to need to be stepping that up. I think the city attorney can also be advocating for. Another really important role for the city attorney is going to be to defend our new social housing developer. I think Katie Wilson has expressed concern about what Mayor Harrell is trying to do or undo with respect to our new social housing developer, but we need a city attorney and a mayor who's going to support them.
Great, thank you. Let's see if anyone else has a hand to raise. Give it a second. If not, I will give you a minute to cover anything you didn't get a chance to finish, or anything else that you think we should know that we didn't ask you. Or go ahead and provide a closing statement, whatever is your preference. You got a minute for yourself.
Yeah, well, so I mean, we are stepping into a really difficult time right now. Our city council is attempting to roll back ethics regulations at the same time as we're seeing all these attacks from the federal level, and it's folks like you. It's folks who attend legislative district meetings. It's folks that are engaged in the process that are going to get us through this period. I think over the next weeks and months, you're going to see your friends and neighbors who know that you are politically involved looking to you to say, okay, what do we do now? When do we need to be out in the streets? When is it going to be time for a general strike? How can we go to the polls most effectively? And so, I want to thank you for your work, and I want to make sure that our city is functioning in a way that is protecting our most vulnerable citizens, our most vulnerable residents, and doing everything that we can to improve the quality of life for folks in Seattle. So thank you for your work, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Great, thank you so much. That concludes our endorsement interview, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.